the Ravens have always done something one way, and maybe that's changing. And that's a good segue into the second topic. And I want to bring up Terrence Hall, who brought up a lot of these questions, but this was something he brought up. And I want to read his comment specifically because he says, topic to talk about the changes, new offensive coordinator, Odell Beckham Jr., new quarterbacks coach, possibly new offensive scheme. Is that the Ravens evolving, a response to the criticism and scrutiny they received this offseason, or due to the real threat of Lamar leaving?
Wow. That's good. That's a great way to put it.
It
I say
is.
both. I say both. Like we have to really look at it. They were stuck in their ways for 3 years because they brought in a new offense. Well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. They brought in a old offense and made it new in a new time. That was ran to perfection. It was ran to perfection in 2019. It was very unexpected. And then they took the lead by storm, just the same way the Wildcat did. And even before Tim Tebow and company made it so big, there was someone else, I believe, in the NFL that made it great as well. I can't think. I'm pulling a blank on the team. I think it was before Miami too. But neither here or there. When it comes to all the criticism that they heard about Greg Roman and just being a running specialist and not a true offensive coordinator, people I believe they heard that. When they keep on hearing that Lamar Jackson don't have any weapons, they kept on trying to answer it in the draft. We're constantly getting wide receivers. Whether it was a guy he liked or not. Some guys made it on the team. Some guys didn't. With Antoine Wesley, did he play at Louisville with him at one point?
I think so. He might have. Yeah.
Okay. And then one of his childhood friends, he got picked up as well, and then they made the 53-man roster as well. So I mean, they tried to quote unquote cater to Lamar. The only person that really worked out for a little bit of time was Hollywood, and even Hollywood got frustrated and requested the trade. So EDC, John Harbaugh, even though they are answering the questions in the best political ways possible when it comes to the press conference and things of that nature, they've heard the rumors, they've heard the cries, they've heard the arguments. And I believe if it's true that, if Lamar said to them, go get me Odell and Deshaun Watson and let's talk, I feel like they truly want to have Lamar Jackson as a QB because, we talked about it many times that they want either you want to be a real contender we just want to be relevant in the hype. And I feel like this is them showing that they want to be relevant, but also be a contender. They have made the changes of getting Todd Monken. Todd Monken has a track record of using his best players available and using a scheme that's going to put him in a successful place, whether it was on the NFL level and college level. He showed that he could win. The only thing he hasn't did on the NFL level is won a Super Bowl. But we've seen him on the college level win natties. So that speaks to what he did, and it speaks to after losing George Pickens, he used tight ends and a not so great QB that's won a natty that probably is going to go undrafted or be a 6th rounder. and he got into the big dance. So I definitely feel like the Ravens are evolving due to the needs of Lamar Jackson, and also due to they're now want to step into the modern era. Oh, also they actually did go out there and spend a little money. I know people say, oh, they spend a ridiculous amount of money on this 1-year contract for Odell Beckham, but hey, they went out there and got a wide receiver for Lamar Jackson, even though this is his contract year. I mean, but they went out there and did it.
Yeah, and I'm going to say I don't think they're evolving. I think the Ravens way is still how they're going to operate. I think the biggest thing that they do is they try and get smart people, right? Whether it's a smart person as a coach, whether it's a smart person as a quarterback, whether it's a smart person as a general manager, whatever it is, they want to get people that know what they need to do. And obviously, traditionally, that hasn't been going and getting a big money wide receiver. I think that's the only thing that I see as new for the Ravens. They haven't really done that before, but they've done it in the sense of they've gone after big name wide receivers. Steve Smith was a huge name. Obviously, when it comes to wide receivers, nobody's a bigger name than Odell Beckham Jr. Not even Tyreek Hill, not even Devontae Adams. Like Odell Beckham Jr. is the biggest name as the wide receiver position, maybe since Randy Moss. Like he's massive. So like getting him was huge, but I feel like that was something that the Ravens would have done traditionally if they really needed a wide receiver for their quarterback, because they've typically gone drafting them as the route, and that hasn't worked. And that's not an Eric DeCosta thing. That's a Ravens thing. It just hasn't worked.
Facts.
And so they decided, hey, you know what? Let's get this guy a 1-year deal because their quarterback asked for it. And they've been good at, when their quarterbacks and when their star players have asked for certain things, they've obliged. They just haven't had quarterbacks asking them, hey, go get me a major contract wide receiver. Instead, it's like, give me an offensive line. Give me this, give me that. But, Greg Roman was one of the longer tenured offensive coordinators underneath John Harbaugh. It's not like, honestly, firing Greg Roman is more back to the norm of, oh, wow, look at that. We lost another offensive coordinator. Like that's not something that, we're used to, is having a guy for 3 years underneath John Harbaugh, that is. And I just think like them going after a college guy, that's what they've been doing. Like they've been doing the unorthodox hirings, right? They didn't go after, they obviously interviewed people, but they weren't signing a guy from the McVay tree, right? Their head coach is a special teams coach. They've always been unorthodox, and they've gone through their organization. Mike McDonald came through them.
Yep.
He went to John's brother, hops back over to the Ravens, and he's very successful, I think. And then also like drafting players that their coaches are familiar with. They've always done that, whether it's Michigan players with Harbaugh or going out and drafting Ojabo. I think I would not be shocked whatsoever if we add Georgia players to this Ravens team, whether it's through the draft or undrafted players. I fully expect us to bring someone in. And there's guys that I really like. Maybe it's not, a first rounder or anything like that, but it could be a Kenny McIntosh. It could be a Stetson Bennett undrafted guy. It could be the safety, again, still blanking on his name. I don't think he's worthy of a first round pick, but Nolan Smith is a guy that some people like. I don't like him at all. I think he sucks. But besides the point, I really hope he's not a Raven, because if he is, this is going to look really bad, because I'm about to hype him up a little bit. But my legitimate comp for Nolan Smith, watching him, was Adafe, which, you don't want to hear that as a comp for a first round edge rusher.
That's tough.
So, but I don't think they're evolving. I think they're just being smart, as they always are. They're looking at their quarterback and they're like, they're not overpaying him. That's something they've always done. Yeah. Instead, they're like, hey, how do we get you for this cheaper deal? And he's telling him, and he's like, hey, if you want me for this cheaper deal, go do this. Go get me these guys. Build around me. And they said, okay. I don't think they're being pushed around. I feel like this is how they would have operated under Ozzie, because I think people forget this. Ozzie is still in the building. He still makes money from the Ravens. It's not like Ozzie Newsome retired and left. He retired from being a general manager.
He's the whisperer.
He's a consultant. Like, he's sitting, Eric DeCosta's talking to him. I would not be surprised whatsoever. Actually, I would expect him to be in the draft room on Thursday. We're going to see him in the background. Like, he's there. So, like, Eric DeCosta's not changing things. He's just being smart. And a lot of people, what's funny, how many people told us, Joshua, just write Lamar a blank check? And then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts gets a contract, which is, I would say, about equal. There's slight differences, but about equal to what the Ravens offered. And Lamar Jackson has, like, laughed at the Ravens offers. And people are like, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't write him a blank check because that was a pretty good contract the Eagles gave out." And Lamar's like, "I don't want anything near that."
And you know what? Insult to injury, the offer that was offered to Lamar was done without him having an agent.
Would have been even more money than Hertz gets,
Yeah.
depending
So
on taxes, depending on them income taxes. But
not for sure, man. But I mean, I mean, honestly, I like the fact that you brought that up. I mean, um, the Ravens organization do have a way of hiding things and make it look like they're doing some great things. So I do actually respect you saying that. Um, man, I'm just looking forward. I'm looking forward. I'm interested to see how things, all come into fruition. I guess we should say.